I'm in volcanic Iceland. It's amazing here. I just saw some incredible waterfalls, and on my walk down here I noticed that there's some yarrow growing. Now yarrow is really great for divination and psychic work. It helps us see. It's also really beneficial for to ease fevers. It also helps with menstrual pain and problems and general relief from aches and pains. Yarrow is great for including in all your spell and magic work.
Harney from Dreamscape, Mysteries Esoterica, where we explore the paths to greater consciousness, particularly through our plant allies. And today we have Tree Carr with us, and I can't imagine a more perfect guest for this show. How you doing, Tree, today?
Hey Scott, I'm great, and thanks for inviting me on. I actually have that yarrow that I was describing,
Oh,
so I
yeah, that's
foraged
finesse.
it.
Mm,
Smells amazing, but I've been use it from time to time.
that's great. And now, Tree, you're broadcasting from the UK. You're
Yes,
right now a resident of the UK. That's good.
I
That's
am
cool.
a resident. Yeah, I've been here since 1999.
Right. But you grew up in the United States, right?
Yeah, I grew up
Yeah.
in the States and Canada as well, so I
Mm,
was back and forth between both countries. It seems to move every 7 years, basically, growing up.
right.
And UK is like the longest I've been anywhere, really, in one country at
Mm,
any given time. So it's like, in a way, I came home when I moved over here.
right. And Tree, I've been long a fan of her work. I have her book Dreams. In fact, I'm going to put that up right now. How to Connect with Dreams to Enrich Your Life, which is an amazing book. I really recommend it. It goes through lucid dreaming as well as the dream herbs. And yeah, it's a great book. Let me put it up there real quickly. There we go. Okay. And I also recently took her phenomenal 6-week lucid dreaming course in sleepover. And it really is a life changing course. Um, Tree takes you from basically how to lucid dream, dream hygiene, as well as using herbs to enhance your dreaming abilities, which is great. And we end up with that sleepover, which is phenomenal. There's a ritual beforehand and a check-in after, which is very shamanic, which I think you would consider yourself really a dream shaman, right? As well as a witch, correct?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I consider myself a witch, and I do
Mm,
identify as a witch and a dream witch, but with shamanic in a sense,
mm,
because shamanism is worldwide, really, and I do use more. I identify more with the word witch, but
mm,
yeah, so it is a shamanic worldview, a shamanic cosmology, so to
mm.
speak, working with nature, with the plants as allies, um, a belief in plant consciousness.
Right. And so you grew up in a commune, which I think find fascinating. And according to your book, you grew up without a TV, which I think is phenomenal. You know, I never put my TV on, and I think that really has a negative effect on. I think people watch too much TV, play video games, has such a negative effect on our ability to visualize and also dream. So, do you think that? So, tell us how that led to your path of being a lucid dream teacher and
Yeah,
expert.
so I sometimes I feel like I'm from a different time, even though it was just the 70s. But I am a child of the 70s. I was born in 72, and my formative years were on a commune. So I had um, the luxury, I guess, looking at it now, it is a luxury to be in nature all the time and to have time to just play and create and dream and have a big imagination. And part of the commune's sort of ethos was that there was no outside, there was no pop culture. We didn't have
Mm,
televisions, we didn't have radio. Um, for music, we just played our own music. My dad was a musician, and we grew up with music. So just grew up really like with, music, drawing, playing outside, imaginations. And my dream life was really quite connected because of that. So, and my family took the dream seriously as well. So if there were dreams, they were discussed and talked about. Both my parents have a predisposition for precognition, precognitive dreaming, and waking visions as well. My dad, like famously in my family, like saw our house fire when I was like 13 before it actually burned down the
Wow.
day before. So that's just an example. So I kind of grew up with this acceptance of, these liminal states, and that they were valid. They were valid forms of conscious experience. So yeah, I think that having no TV probably really helped me to stay in that flow state, to stay in that kind of that beta brainwave, really not beta, theta brainwave, where you're really
Right.
receptive and open. Um, in fact, the first time I saw television was probably when I was about 6 years
Hmm.
old, and it was at like a relative's house. It was my grandparents, my older grandparents, and it was in Florida. And I remember just being really transfixed with it, and I thought it was a toy. I had no idea it was actually this. I just thought it was a picture box. It felt like
Hmm.
really, I was kind of like living in a cave, very innocent and naive in that sense. But certainly I was around television a lot more as I grew up. But I found that the television would give me kind of feelings of panic. I
Hmm.
found televisions to be almost like overstimulated, and they would make me feel really anxious being around them. So if I was like had flatmates had TVs on all the time, or was over at a friend's house where the television was on all the time, I would actually find it very difficult to just like be in the room.
Hmm.
So a sensitivity probably arised from that. That I noticed, especially when I was, a teenager, early 20s, it seemed to be. And I
Sure.
realized, like, okay, yeah, TVs do something.
Right. Well, they sort of fill in that little void with images that don't belong to you. So, in a way, it's very intrusive. I find it. That's why I never put the TV on. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, to this
so
day I don't have TV. I mean, I watch films and I'll
right. Yeah,
seek
me
out
too. Yeah.
film, but
Sure.
I don't have a subscription to television or television itself.
Now, in your book, you mentioned how, as a teenager, you also had precognitive dreams, and you also had a teacher, a friend, Ren, and you would together you learned how to lucid dream. You want to talk a little bit about um, how you actually got into lucid dreaming?
Yeah, it's amazing you brought up Ren, because I had a dream about him last night that was
Hmm.
really quite touching. He died 5 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, so he's been really in my sphere today. So it's nice to hear you say his name.
Hmm.
Um, so when we were kids, teenagers, 14, 15, we would have these lucid dreams and out of body experiences, but we didn't really know how to define them. I mean, this is like, 1986. These are the 80s. This is
Hmm.
before internet, before you can research your experiences and see forums of other people having similar experiences. So we
Hmm.
just would call them, like, those dreams that you can, the control dreams, the dreams that you can control. And we would speak about our dreams quite a bit with each other. And over the years, we always checked in with our lucid dreaming, and from that moved into working with plants and herbs. So Ren was the first who told me about mugwort when we
Oh,
were
right.
now I
Yeah,
like grow
mugwort.
it.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow. Nice. Okay.
so I've got quite a few like pots of mugwort growing, and
Right.
um, then it's dried out. It looks like that, so made into tea.
Right.
Ooh, that's for the
Nice.
camera there.
Very good.
So we started working with that. It wasn't in, it wasn't until his death, when he died, it just kind of like changed everything in terms of the connectivity. Like, now he comes through in my dreams a lot since he's
Wow.
died,
Hmm.
in out of body states as well. And I've also seen him, he's popped up in plant medicine ceremonies, ayahuasca ceremonies. But
Wow.
yeah, so he was like a prolific dream buddy of mine, and also
Hmm.
like a soul brother in many ways. And yeah, I dedicated my first book to him because it felt like I really needed to write that book to honor his legacy.
Right.
Especially because, he had this really prolific kind of precog dream 3 months before he died, of
Hmm.
being sucked under water, and he was underneath the ocean, and I had flown down, and I was in there with him and comforting him because he was panicking. And I said, "Don't worry, we can breathe underwater." And then he said at one point he was above watching and seeing from a different vantage point, as though he was hovering above and he could see himself down in the water. 3 months later, he died in a swimming accident. Like, he died in the ocean. He was found washed up in the Pacific coast. And so, that always really struck me, because that was the last dream he shared with me, and it was
Right.
really quite premonitory in many ways. Um, yeah, but it's funny when friends pass, sometimes they're around a lot more, you know.
Right. And yeah, and I think your work with lucid dreaming has led you to. We're going to talk about this more later, but as your role as a death doula, which is helping people make the transition. Um,
Yeah.
so
So that's a big part of it too. I think, many years ago when I stepped out as a guide, a dreaming guide, I also was uh, stepping into the role of death doula as well, which has its whole other backstory of
right.
these synchronicities through my life that really led me to that role. And it feels very much like dreams and death really support each other. They're both very liminal spaces. They're both also spaces that hold mystery as well. And they are experiences of consciousness. So, um, in many ways, I feel really drawn to those threshold states. I feel maybe it's because I'm a double Scorpio. I don't know. That could have something to do with
Right.
it.
I mean, but someone who lucid dreams, I mean, it's almost in a way, well, of course, in Sufism, they call it the little death every time you go to sleep. So, in a way, it's almost like a preparation for transitioning. Would you say so?
Yeah, and in fact, it's a really nice practice, conscious dreaming practice, in a way to prepare you for uh, the the death, the process, the transition, especially when you approach these things consciously. So with a conscious dreaming practice, you are engaging your consciousness in a very numbered of um, little rituals that help you maintain consciousness as you are on the threshold.
Right.
So the threshold state being the hypnagogic state, when our brain waves are shifting into slower patterns. On those threshold states, if we can hold our conscious awareness, we can really feel that almost separation between our corporal body and our just pure awareness. And so, in many Buddhist traditions, lucid dreaming is used in these ways, and astral projection is used in these ways to effectively prepare the person's consciousness, soul, spirit, however you want to define it,
Right.
to transist after the body's expired. So it also helps with to relieve any fear of death too, because you realize that you're much more than just this, fleshy spacesuit that we're hanging out in.
It's true. It's funny in Pakistan. I lived there for a year, and I talked to a lot of the Sufi mystics there, and they had a sort of similar practice where they would obviously dreaming is an integral part of Sufism and astral traveling. Because they call it the Kareen, the body double, to go out. It's a little bit of a different practice, but so when a Sufi saint dies, they celebrate the year anniversary. They call it his wedding. So it's not, yeah. So we don't celebrate his death anniversary. We celebrate his wedding. They call it Urs. So so they consider him still alive because during in his daily life prior to the transition, I mean, he was regularly going out and lucidly dreaming. So when he dropped his physical form, right? I mean, it was, they consider him still alive. So I find that interesting. It's sort of like similar to Buddhism in a way.
It is, and you can see
Mm,
the similar threads weaving through lots of different systems of belief and lots of different cultures as well. And it's just an innately human thing.
Right.
And no matter what we define it as, or what kind of spiritual connection or connotation is there, it's the base note really is that this is an experience of consciousness. And if you are human and you're perceiving and you are conscious, then it's a potential that you can
Right.
experience these.
And it's so interesting, Western culture, particularly in the United States, we are so fearful about death. It's, all our films, movies, news, it's focused on that. And what I find interesting is, particularly in the New York occult community, Santa Muerte is a very big deity. So I don't know if that's a sort of a reaction to it or sort of part of it. How does Santa Muerte, for instance, fit in your work, or does
I
she
love
fit at
it.
all? Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love all of the death archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
I love all the psychopomps throughout history, from ancient Greece through
Mm-hmm.
to Egypt, through to more Mesoamerica. And I
Right.
love this role, this archetype,
Mm-hmm.
because you can see similarities through all of these cultures.
Mm.
And it
Right.
is, you can even see it in plant medicine, ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm.
The you know ayahuasca is, in a way, I feel, a psychopomp.
Hmm.
She embodies
Mm-hmm.
all of those archetypes all in one. So she really is a pathfinder to the other side. She does show you how it
Mm-hmm.
all works. She is to be feared. She's also to be like in awe of, and I think the psychopomp very much falls within that category. And I
Hmm.
think there's so much fear in the West because of death, because we become disconnected from it,
Right.
and we've been connected from the process, because
That's right.
everything's been highly medicalized. So when someone
Right.
dies, they're completely swept away, and they're
Mm-hmm.
taken away behind closed curtains, and it's taboo,
Right.
and we don't, what happens to the body, what's going on, and we're so separated. Where as in the past, we took care of our loved ones, and they died at
Right.
home. We prepared their bodies, we held the wakes, we buried the
Right.
bodies. We had a connection, an intimate relationship with death. And I think that that's a big part of it, that
Right.
we've lost the humanity, we've lost the intimacy. And therefore, when we don't know about something, we fear it. It's an unknown. So, and it doesn't help when you, like you said, with films and
Right.
things like that make it seem creepy, spooky, sad, depressing. I find death absolutely transformative, and being
Hmm.
around people who are dying is so sacred, and the energy that's in the room is
Hmm.
like not fearful. It's
Right.
just, it's love, and it feels euphoric. It's almost like a psychedelic experience in many
Wow.
ways.
No,
And
this
I
is
think it's
fascinating.
a dying person too, you know.
Hmm.
Deathbed phenomenon is something that's very understudied,
Hmm.
and it happens all the time. So people having deathbed visions, they say, "Oh no, it's just the drugs, they're hallucinating." But let me tell you, there's been people who've been completely lucid and without medication, who are having these profound, experiences
Hmm.
in those transitory states. So yeah, there's so much that we've become disconnected from in the
Right.
West. That's a big part of my work, is that I'm such an advocate for bringing
Hmm.
back these old ways of being, uh,
Right.
which are, they're not archaic in the sense that they're no longer worthy or valid of being used. I see them as like reconnecting
Right.
to our ancient soul, our ancient humanity. And
Right.
I'm really hoping that helping people move back into these sort of ways of navigating death and being around death will, just make for amazing lives, making it more connected and magical and healing too.
That sounds great. I mean, it sounds like a next book of yours. To be honest with you, it sounds. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I'm,
it's
I'm writing it.
but it's you're right, especially in our modern, I'll say, mainstream culture. Yeah, people just shy away from it. They don't want to see it. We're disconnected. But my in-laws, for instance, in Egypt, which is sort of not 100%, but still retains some traditional culture aspects of it. When the parent dies, the oldest son is expected to wash the body and then wrap it in a shroud. And it's a very intimate sort of, you can't get any more connected than that. And then usually they're buried before sundown. I mean,
Yes.
that's the tradition. And I've participated in a number of, I guess, traditional Islamic ceremonies where, it's they don't hire someone to dig the hole; they do it.
Yeah.
Like it'll be the
Well,
son or the family members.
and I'm a big advocate of that, of catharsis.
Hmm.
And a lot of people go, ooh, gross, like I'm gonna wash a dead body. Oh,
Right.
that's so morbid, as if I'm gonna dig a hole. But you know what? I can throw science at this, because science says that, and there's been stats and studies done, that people who are engaged in a cathartic process through the death of a loved one, their bereavement time is way shorter than
Hmm.
those who just are like, oh, I can't deal. I don't even want to look at
Right.
the body. I don't even want to, just get the funeral director in here, just take it,
Yeah,
long
that's true.
longer grief time. So there is science behind it. So
Hmm.
for any of the naysayers who are like, that's sick, I don't want to do that.
No, I agree
um,
with you. Yeah.
Catharsis, and we
Yeah.
need to also, like, not just take care of the bodies and do the digging process, but wail and weep and cry if we need
Yeah.
to.
Right.
Allow yourself 3 days of just being like a total
Mm.
wreck. You need to,
Right.
but expect it to, like, oh, back to work on Monday. You got your deadlines, and it's back to
Right.
being in the machine. So, there's that in the West as well, which
Hmm.
kind of sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like people like yourself, changing that whole perception, I think, is really important. So let's keep up the good
Yes.
work. That's great. So lucid dreaming, we can see it has a lot of spiritual benefits. What would you say the biggest spiritual benefit of lucid dreaming is?
I think the biggest spiritual benefit is that upon awakening after a lucid dream, you question the nature of reality.
Hmm.
You're like, I was somewhere, I really experienced something. I'm now waking up, and where I was felt more real than this.
Hmm.
What is this all about? So I think
Interesting.
that is really important. I think we should question the nature of reality. We should question, what is consciousness? What is perception? What am I perceiving? What is material reality? I think it's good to ask these questions. They're big questions, and I know it gets people scratching their heads because we're looking at the hard problem of consciousness itself. Even scientists don't even know, where does consciousness come from? They
Right.
can't locate it in the brain. They're not able to find it in a tangible way. Is there a compound that's
Hmm.
connected with consciousness? Is it outside of the body? So I think it's really quite profound when people experience lucid dreaming. That, in a sense, creates a catalyst and a hunger to explore. And
Right.
I think exploration is an amazing driver of transformation for a person. It just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So I think you can take anything you want out of lucid dreaming. You
Hmm.
could see it as just a entertainment thing,
Hmm.
like a form of virtual reality, or you can approach it from a transpersonal point of view, where you want to develop and grow as a person. You can approach it from a spiritual point of view, because I know a lot of people want to connect to either gods or
Hmm.
gurus or guides, and that
Hmm.
comes into their
Right.
experience. And I think it's amazing, because it's basically an exploration of you
Hmm.
and all of your potential in this
Right.
multiverse that we live in. So there's just, it's just, so how can you not be excited about that?
Right. Yeah. And how can you not be? And when you do have a lucid dream, it really is. Well, first of all, people who may not know, lucid dreaming is when you sort of retain consciousness in a dream. So for people, I'm sure most of our viewers know that. But like for instance, myself, we talked as we were setting up about my own very vivid lucid dream that really was, I would say, a life changing event as well. When I was working with with a program in New York City, and I went to sleep, but I never lost consciousness, and then ended up in almost like a parallel reality where I was married, and it was understood that was my wife, that was my daughter. But then halfway through the dream, I realized something strange, like I'm having an anxiety attack type thing, right? You know? And it's almost that panicking, but then you realize, and then it's liberating because you realize, oh my God, I'm in a dream and I can go anywhere I want. But then when I woke up, it was exhilarating because you realize that consciousness doesn't end. So that was my takeaway from that. And of course, I've been trying to get back to that place ever since. So that's why your course has helped a lot. Yeah.
And it's
So,
also really amazing because I think the panic attack probably happened because it's like, oh my God, this is real. But if this is real, then this is, wow, I'm freaked out right now. So I'm sure
right,
that it's like what I was saying, where it questions your nature of reality,
right. Yeah,
your ideas
yeah.
or your thoughts of what reality is. So that's an incredible experience.
Yeah, it's funny. Last week, Shoki Dewan, he's a Sufi teacher. They, of course, they use a lot of dreaming, but he was saying a lot of Sufis that involved in dreaming their double. They get sometimes they can't deal with the fact that when they're dealing with the double and they realize the double may be dreaming them. Like, in other words, and it really is so disconcerting. And that's why in Pakistan you have a lot of these mystics who go, they call it madzub, where they can't deal with it because their reality here is no longer real, and they realize the dream world is actually the reality. you know,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the case. It's also, but I'm saying it can be. You're right. I mean, when you start questioning your reality, like, is this the dream or is this reality? And I think that can cause either liberation or, for some people, a problem. you know.
Yeah, some people just feel like that was too intense. I
Yeah.
don't want to experience anything like that again, and I just really want to be in this pragmatic reality that I'm in.
Right.
But I think it's really great because it's you know, throws into question not just consciousness and this and the the nature of consciousness and the potential of it, but it also throws into question reality and is there multiple timelines? Is
Mm-hmm.
there multiple dimensions happening? Is there a me in another timeline that I just experienced? Did I just experience that timeline and my other aspect?
What's your
And
opinion? Is there? Do you believe that's the case?
I wonder, because I had this one really prolific sleep paralysis experience that sounds kind of similar to yours in the sense where I felt like I was really there in the moment. So in my experience, I was, and if anybody doesn't know what sleep paralysis is, it's another liminal state where you are completely frozen and you can't move your body, but you're having sensations through your body. You could be hearing things like electrical sounds, wind sounds, whirring, buzzing. Feels like you're in between radio stations, kind of thing. And you can feel, obviously, you can't wake up, but you're fully conscious and aware. So I had this one sleep paralysis situation where all of a sudden I really specifically heard like a radio presenter's voice talking, and he said, like I was tuning in, I could hear him talking, and then all of a sudden the song kicked in, and the song that kicked in was, it was Kurt Cobain. I could recognize the voice. It was an unplugged version, but it was not a song I ever heard Kurt Cobain
Hmm.
sing.
Wow.
And I've seen Nirvana play when I was like young, like in the in the
Hmm.
'90s, and had all their albums and whatnot, but never heard this song. And I was sitting there and I heard, like, it was like I was tuning into a radio show, and the whole song played. And right at the end of the whole song, I was just laying there listening to this whole song, going, "What?" I'm like, I can't believe I'm listening to this song. I've never heard it before. Listening to Kurt Cobain's new song, and I pulled out of the sleep paralysis. And when I pulled out, it was like I was so deep into it. When I came back out, I was like, no, 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 no. I was just grasping at that
Hmm.
reality. I was also trying to grasp at the memory of the song so I could bring it back. but it was almost as though as soon as I woke up, my brain kind of like just reset. And I'm a musician, so I was like, no, I really need to know that song. I want to hum it. I want to try to play it. But I was so struck by the experience that it made me think, feel like I had just heard an alternate reality or a timeline where Kurt Cobain had not died and he was still alive and he was still making music. And it was, in real time. It was 2017 or whatever, and he was still alive. So I was like, I've always been kind of open to the idea of multiple timelines, multiple realities, multiple dimensions. And this made me think even more. Like, I'd love to, pursue this even more and play around with this a little bit more in both lucid dreaming and astral projection. I mean, quantum theory right now and the advancements in science are pointing towards these sort of possibilities of an infinite possibilities of futures. We have loads of different futures that could unfold, and maybe we, in some kind of way, can be part of orchestrating that. That's why I think precognition is really important, because I see precognition as giving you, it's like almost like a wink and a nudge and a hint on how you can move forward or navigate. Some things precognitively do come to pass and do unfold in your waking reality, but then sometimes it seems like you get a precog hit about something, and then when you are faced with it in waking reality, you could choose something different. So for example, not getting into a blue car because you saw the blue car getting in an accident, and therefore not deciding to step into the blue car when you're in a waking reality. That's just an example. I have a friend who was recently in touch saying, my daughter is 11 years old. And he's like, it's freaking me out because she's saying that she listens to her dreams because it makes her not do things in the future. And I was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. She's 11 and she's learning that. So basically she gets little precog dreams. And from those dreams, feels like she's given a little bit of a heads up. And then when the scene starts to unfold,
I think we froze for a second. Okay. Yeah. Yes, that's fascinating. I mean, I think in your background is you're Celtic, and so I know when I was growing up, they call it dreaming true, right? When you would have these you dream, and I've had those when I was younger as well, where you'll dream something and it'll happen.
yeah.
Interesting. What would you say the most profound lucid dream you've ever had?
Yeah, so I have two, but I'll which one should I choose? I kind of want to say both. Well, just be quick on both of them. One of them was a lucid dream, very brief and short. So I was having a seemingly normal dream. A few odd things happened in my environment that made me go lucid, and it was just strange characters on a beach and the sky looking a weird way. And when I went lucid, I decided I'm going to connect with my higher self. I decided that I want to see what happens when I do that. So I just said, connect to higher self now. And when I did that, I was sucked through the air really, really quickly. I was accelerating through tons of layers of light and color. And I hit this pinnacle of light that just sort of smashed into it. And as soon as I hit it, I felt like pure euphoria, pure bliss, and unbelievable love and unified connectivity to everything. It was just absolutely amazing. And then just smashed, waking up out of that experience. Just absolutely incredible. Really quick little dream, but it was really profound. And then the other one I had was a really long one. It was my longest lucid dream. And in this one, I had gone lucid, and I had seen like this path that was going up to a mountain. and decided, this is great. I'm going to fly along this path. I was flying up this mountain path and lots of trees around. I saw this one specific tree and I thought, I need to go to that tree. So I flew over to the tree and I started to climb it, climb the branches to the very top. And the bark, everything was really like really visceral and more real than real. And I got to the very top of the tree, on the top of the canopy of the forest, and I looked out and I just saw infinite ocean. And I was like, I'm gonna go fly down there. So I jumped off the top of the tree, started flying over the ocean. And as I started flying over the ocean, I could hear music. So it was almost like I could hear like 1,000 voices, all in
Mm.
different harmonic tones. And it
Oh.
was like the place I was in was conscious, and this was like the spirit of the
Mm.
entire place I was in, and it had a song. So the whole place was alive, like with this beautiful song. And I had never felt such beauty and awe, and just realized that everything is alive, and specific place I was in was alive, and it just went on and on and on, and it felt like more real than real time. And when I finally came back to waking up, it was like I was going through many, 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 many layers back into my waking reality. Like I was somewhere very far away and very deep. And when I woke up, that was one of those sort of experiences where you think, yeah, what is reality? Because I was just in
Mm.
an amazing place, and I didn't,
Didn't
you
want to
know,
come back. Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah, I
come
hear you.
back. Amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, is that
Yeah.
what heaven is? I don't know.
That's beautiful. But I think one of the most useful takeaways from the class I just took with you was the whole concept of. And I love that. You know, when you're in a dream, sometimes, like when I go lucid, sometimes I don't know what to do. And a lot of times, like I'll, float around a little bit. But then, I don't know, I try to talk to people I see. And for some reason, they don't want to talk. It's just like you get scared or something. I don't know what it is. Um, but the whole concept of let me connect to my higher self, I think is so powerful. And that, because that gets, then it's the reason why we're doing this isn't really just to hang out and, fly and all that, but it is to connect to that higher creator and higher self, which is amazing. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's like, and we might go through these sort of phases as lucid dreamers.
Mm.
The entertainment phase. I'm gonna fly around, and when I was
Mm.
a teenager, I was always like, I'm gonna have sex with people. Like, of course, I was
Look in the
ages of
windows.
it.
Yeah.
Like I was doing that.
Right.
Maybe it's the double Scorpio. I don't know, but I was doing that for a long time up until my
Right.
20s. And then it was, and then I realized that there was a few other dreams that, if I felt like this, though the lucid dream stopped me from doing that. It's like, come
Mm.
on, you need to evolve into something else. And that's when guides started coming in. And when I say
Mm.
guides, I don't mean guides in the sense of the like that new age sense of like these sort of light being like guides with like
Right.
rainbows shooting out of their eyes or anything like that. um, the guides or the teachers that I have
Mm-hmm.
in my dreams are actually people who had lived before and they're dead.
Mm. Right.
So one of my first lucid dreams with a guide or a teacher was an amazing lucid dream where I was flying down this country path, and I saw a garden wall, and on the side of the wall was this old man with a white hair. And
Hmm.
he called me over and he said, "You want to see something cool?" I said,
Hmm.
"Sure." He started shooting electricity out of the palms of his hands,
Wow.
and it was like iridescent blue little lightning bolts.
Hmm.
And he's like, "You can
Wow.
do it too." So he showed me how to work with energy, and
Hmm.
showed me how to do this. And at the end of the
Hmm.
dream, just before waking up, I just got this big knowing just fell onto my head. This is Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla is showing you
Oh.
how to use
Wow.
electricity, your own energy, and your own electricity. So I woke up feeling
Hmm.
really quite that was quite profound. Dreams are often people who've lived before. I have had Alfred Hitchcock
Oh,
come
wow.
into dreams, giving me a really amazing lessons about shadow work.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Uh, I've had Terrence McKenna a lot in my dreams, in my
Wow. Huh.
dreams, a lot. So it seems to be everyone's different though. Some people have, teachers or guides that are, you know, they interface with their gurus, or they interface with a saint, or they
Mm-hmm.
interface with a spiritual being or a light being. So I think we're all different in the way that we interact with our dream characters. Or some feel like you said, they feel like dream characters where you go up and you want to have conversations and they don't respond. And then sometimes there seems to be like characters that have their own willpower
Right.
and their own choices. So I
Mm-hmm.
find that quite fascinating too, the
Yeah.
difference between the two.
Fascinating. That's great. So, so part of your work is working with dream herbs, and I know in the movie Inception, which dealt with lucid dreaming, which was I thought was an excellent film. The main characters took some type of chemical or something, whatever it was, drug. Um, does that first of all, does that exist now? I mean, is there any are there any companies working on some type of sort of drug that could help you dream?
Super interesting. Yeah. You know what? I've never seen Inception. Isn't that funny? It must be
Huh?
the fact that I grew up with OTV, but it's like I've
Yeah.
never seen it. And I have to do it. I have to see it
Yeah, I would
just.
recommend that definitely.
I'm going to definitely see it. But yes, so speaking of which, any companies that are doing making these drugs or anything, yeah. So it's funny enough. Like I've super cool synchronicity. I had a company send me some of their lucid dreaming pills
Oh,
recently.
huh. Oh, that's right. I think you mentioned that, of course, too. That's right. Yeah.
So galantamine, I haven't taken it yet.
Galantamine. I'm going to write that in the chat. This is, let me
So
see.
this is the company. It's called Lucid.
Galantamine, and it's called by Lucid.
Sorry, my eyes.
I could actually probably find
I think
what
they're called Dreamleaf. Yeah, Lucid Dreamleaf.
dream, lucid,
Dreamleaf.
dream,
So
leaf. It's called galantamine.
yeah, so galantamine is
Ah,
actually
hmm.
one of the compounds found in snowdrops.
Mm-hmm.
So the flower petals of the snowdrops holds the compound galantamine. So snowdrops are highly toxic. Actually, you don't want to use a snowdrop as a lucid dreaming plant because you
Right.
get very sick. They're
Mm-hmm.
poisonous, but their
Huh.
flower petals hold this compound called
Snowdrops. Huh.
galantamine. So
Wow. It's
what
fascinating.
this company's done is they've taken the
Huh.
compound of galantamine out of the snowdrops, the petals of the
Wow.
flowers,
Mm-hmm.
and have made them into pills. So I've not taken this yet. I've promised them that I'm going to experiment with this.
Hmm.
Now take um, I
Oh,
do
here,
take
actually, is this right?
snowdrop petal
Oops.
tincture.
Galantamine. Uh huh. Oh, did you
So that
really?
yeah,
Tincture, huh?
yeah. So I have a tincture that I've taken over the years or whatever. But I've decided, okay, I'm going to try to take their product. So this is their product here, and
Yeah, there it is. I can bring it up
so
again.
it
Here we go. It's a acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. Interesting.
yes.
Okay.
So it
Hmm.
really increases cognitive brain power. So it really increases dream memory recall, and it seems to bring about really vivid, really active dreams. So
Hmm.
your chances of going lucid with this compound are pretty high, especially if you do what we lucid dreamers call a wake back to bed technique, which we did in the
Oh, right.
course.
Yes, right. That is very
So
good. Yeah. Mm.
interrupting your sleep. So
Yeah.
interrupting your sleep a couple hours before you normally would get up, and then take one of these galantamine tablets,
Hmm.
go back to sleep, and then get super activated into vivid dreaming. But it's all from originally from the
Snowdrop.
snowdrop flower. Yeah.
And you say is it a toxic plant? You said you wouldn't take it, but you take a tincture of it?
Yeah, so the tincture
Mm.
that I take, they've separated the um, the compound from the flower. So it's a
Ah.
flower tincture. So, I mean, you don't want to
Mm.
take that whole, that plant it would be highly toxic, but they've been able to take
Mm.
the tincture away. My tincture is in the other room. I should have had
That's
it here
fine.
probably.
No, no problem. But we get that's cool. Wow, snowdrop. Interesting. Um, yeah, that's fascinating. I may give it a try myself. It's supposed to be good for memory as well.
It's good. And you know what another good one is Huperzine A, which is also a supplement. And it comes from this
And that
Chinese
is
club moss.
Chinese club moss. Okay.
So with the Chinese club moss, it holds the
Hmm.
Huperzine A, but you can just get that, as a supplement if you don't want to do the whole make a tea out of it. But
Mm-hmm.
this also increases cognitive performance,
Right.
which was really helpful when you want to actively dream. And it's also really helpful too if you're not very good at remembering your dreams.
Hmm.
So both of these plants are good for dream memory recall. And I've got a whole bunch of them, all the ones we did on our course as well.
Yeah, we're gonna go through those too. This is so Huperzine. It even says it's good for Alzheimer's.
That's right. So
Mm.
it is both the galantamine and Huperzine A have been, or normally prescribed with people with Alzheimer's or dementia, cognitive decline. Having said that, some of the side effects of these, especially
Mm.
galantamine, could be, if you take it too much, you might feel a little bit of a kind of head hangover-ish the next
Right.
day, like just foggy, cloudy, and some people they feel a bit blue, like feel a bit
Mm.
depressed because it does,
Right.
heighten. So what goes up must come down sometimes.
Sure. That's
But all in
fascinating.
moderation, all of these things, even working with plant allies, it's always good to respect the plant and respect your
Mm.
body too, and not overdo it. Just keep everything in balance,
Right.
and let them open up some gateways. But I think we can get there on our own too, in other ways.
What would you say your main plant ally is for dreaming?
Okay, so I changed quite a bit. So for many years, I worked with mugwort. As
Yeah.
I was saying to you, and I
Hmm.
find mugwort really good for bringing in more vivid, uh, lots of
Mm.
dreaming and a lot of dream memory recall. And for me, I find that mugwort actually stimulates precognitive dreaming for me.
Hmm.
Now, of course, this hasn't been proved by science and it's very understudied. And, maybe one day I'll do the science behind it, and I'll look into case studies on how this actually creates precognition. But for myself, I've always experienced that with mugwort. For hundreds of years, witches have used mugwort
Mm. It's
for
true.
psychic, for divination work. So it's got a long history of that. So there's maybe something within this little plant here that makes us have a predisposition to precognition in some kind of way. So this was my first long time friend of
Hmm.
working as a plant, and then I moved on to working with Kalea Zakatashishi, and we
Yes.
covered
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
And it
Uh,
tastes,
it tastes like what does it taste like? Gentian. It's very bitter, but it almost has a sort of a weird flowery aftertaste. I
yeah,
don't
it's
know.
like,
Yeah.
it's peppery. I'm growing it
Yeah.
too. I have tons
Uh,
of it at
the,
home, so
the fact here is
there it is.
oh wow, beautiful.
I've got like 3 pots of it.
Um, yeah. So mugwort for me. So what is the best? So you drink it as a tea, and you also smoke mugwort, right? Is that the best way?
Yeah, you can smoke mugwort as
Yeah.
well. Some
Um,
people make little pillows out of it and
pillows.
sleep
Yeah.
with it.
Mm.
And with Kalea Zakatashishi, it's the same. You can drink it as a tea,
Mm.
super bitter,
Right.
smoke it as well. It's a Mexican dream herb. It's used by
Yeah.
the Chantal people. But I love the dreaming on this. I
Yeah.
always feel I have dreams of the natural world, animals
Yes.
coming in.
Right.
flying over jungles. There's something incredibly kind of, I guess,
In fact,
shamanic about the plant. There's
here's
a
on your website. Yeah. That's the way it's spelled. Kalia Zakatisi. Sometimes they have it with the K though, right? I know Anima Mundi spells it with the K, but you're going to be
yes,
selling these herbs soon, which is great. That's awesome.
yeah.
Um,
So you can get those. Yeah, Enema
yeah,
Mundi's got them.
yeah. Um, I found so I have a same thing. I have a very strong relationship with mugwort. I go on rides, and it shows up everywhere. It's in my yard. Of course, it is everywhere, but it seems like I also planted some places as well. I've taken the seeds and planted it. Um, yeah, and but I don't have as vivid dreams as the Kaleo was really. I found just for me, what far more powerful I found. Um,
Wow, interesting. Yeah.
just for vivid dreams and really vivid dreams. And I don't know, is it safe to take every night? Would you say, or um,
Well, I think when I first connected with this plant, I drank it every single night for 30 days.
ah,
Uh, and I do when I get to know a plant, I work with it for a long length of
sure,
time to really start to feel its consciousness, so to speak,
right,
to really get to know it
mm-hmm.
energetically, or however you want to define it. But having said that, when you do work with herbs, you have to be quite mindful because your liver does take quite a hit
Right, sure,
when processing,
mm-hmm.
lots of herb action. So, a lot of studies now still kind of coming up with Kalea zakitashishi. A lot of these plants are very, very, very understudied, but
Mm,
it does show that too much consumption of it over a long period of time can have its effects on your liver. So, if you are also, staying hydrated and,
mm-hmm.
drinking lemon water and whatnot. In fact, I do recommend using lemon or lime after
Mm,
working with Kalea zakitashishi. It doesn't just help you rehydrate you and also detox and cleanse.
mm,
But the lemon and the lime can also cleanse your palate because it's so bitter. That
right,
bitterness really sticks to your tongue.
mm-hmm.
It's hard to get it out. It's like,
Right.
ugh.
And it's also as a bitter, it must be good for the digestion. I think you've written that it's also you can treat dysentery, fever, skin rashes, as well as headaches. So it's a useful herb,
Yeah,
other medicinally.
yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of, as well as it being a dream
mm,
activator.
mm. Um, yeah, it's a great herb. And guayusa is another herb we studied. Um,
Yes,
in fact, let
and
me.
I've got guayusa here.
Beautiful, yeah. And
And
when you
guayusa in the
mhm.
mornings.
Mornings, right after you dream, right? Is it a dream recall herb? Is that what how would you use it? Or
Yeah, guayusa is like a dream interpretation herb.
mm-hmm.
It's got um, a long history in the Amazon of being the go-to plant that is used in the morning, drank and shared amongst tribe members in the morning. All the dreams are shared from the night before. The shaman interprets the dreams, and they
Mm-hmm.
take all of the dreams seriously, and they see the collective dream as part of the guidance for moving forward. This is not something you would take at night because it's packed full of caffeine and theobromine as well, which gives it that really feel good energy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really clean energy. Actually, it's very different from coffee in the sense that it doesn't make you crash.
Right.
So it's got a very long, clean ride. And it's also cognitively amazing. Like if you sit and meditate with this after drinking cups of guayusa, it's fantastic. Like
Mm.
I had the honor of doing a Kichiwa guayusa ceremony with two shamans
Oh wow.
who had us
Mm.
all partake in guayusa and then
Mm-hmm.
sit and just feel the plant energy. And
Mm.
it was just so effervescent and it was so like crown blowing opening, and
Hmm.
just so connected. All the thoughts felt like they were moving into the higher zones and you're getting insight, and it's fantastic. So I would usually recommend this one in the morning for interpreting and unpacking your dreams from the night before, or you could try it on a wake back to bed as well.
Right. 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 Sure.
and that could keep your consciousness really quite sharply tuned while your body falls back into sleep, much like what you had with the coffee that time that you had that amazing parallel
Right.
dimension experience. So it could, it has that kind of quality where your consciousness is just really heightened. It's not psychoactive. None of the plants that I've gone over right now are psychoactive, but we have worked with psychoactive ones like in the course.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm one of the few people I can drink coffee and go back to sleep, no problem. Other people can't. I like it. Yeah.
lucky
Anyway.
you.
Yeah, it's inherited. My Celtic genes, maybe. Who knows? So blue lotus was another plant, and I love blue lotus. Of course, my connection to Egypt, and yeah. In fact, let's see. It's a beautiful plant. Oh yeah, that's beautiful, and it makes a beautiful looking tea as well.
Yeah, it does. And this
And
is psychoactive.
you say psychoactive, meaning it has. How would you describe that? I don't see. Oh,
Psychoactive
you.
is it will alter
Here
your
we go.
state of consciousness.
Right.
So it will
Yes.
pull you into a slightly altered state while you're awake.
Mm-hmm. There
So
you
you
go.
can feel a little bit stoned. You can feel
Yes.
slightly like colors and sights and sounds feel a little bit more heightened. You will feel sedate as well because it does have sedative qualities to it. So you might yawn quite a bit. You'll be like, feeling quite yawn. And it's also, for some people, it's got quite an aphrodisiac quality to it. So
Right.
feel quite like lovey,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit sensuous.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of flowers do have a bit of a sensuous energy to them. And yeah, so it's been used in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egyptians used it. They considered it a god in its own right, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. It's seen in a lot of the Egyptian iconography, the lotus
Right.
flower pot. And it was also their party drug too. So they would infuse it in wine.
Mm-hmm.
The psychoactive compounds would be extracted from the flower petals and pulled into the wine, making an interesting combination. I've got a YouTube video that has a recipe if anyone wants to know how to make it.
Yeah, it's very good. In fact, I actually have. I've done that. Actually, I have. Keep closing it, but I have 2 bottles of it that I've made. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, so I did follow your YouTube video. In fact, yeah, it's great. I'll put that in the link as well before we leave. But that's great. And we didn't cover it really, but African dream root, Selene
Yeah.
capensis.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating one. It's hard to get.
Yeah, it is hard to get. I've got a few left here. You can also get the powdered bark as well.
Right.
So take them out.
And it's also hard to use too, because you don't drink it. You take the foam. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's different ways you can take it. So you could do it the phone. So that would be the powderized bark.
Mm-hmm.
Put into a jar with some water. You shake it up.
Mm.
When you unshake it, there'll be a whole layer of foam on the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just pull out the foam and you just eat the foam.
Hmm.
So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is grinding the roots, making on a stove hot water, pulling it to a boil, letting it simmer and boil for about 20 minutes, and drinking the concoction. So it's like a decoction.
Right.
And now the African dream root, it can have its side effects. It could give you a funny tummy. So some people prefer the foam method. And it will connect you to the ancestors in dream work. So it's used in tradition in Africa as dreaming, connecting with the dead, connecting with the deceased.
Right.
So people can have a whole wide variety of experiences. You could spend the night just vomiting, or you could be
Right.
connecting to the dead.
Fascinating. I've seen tinctures of this, and I've also seen tinctures of blue lotus. Do tinctures work well with these type of herbs?
You know, I haven't tried the tinctures
Mm,
for blue lotus or for the African dream root, so I
yeah,
wouldn't know how to
yeah.
describe that. But yeah, I've seen them as well.
Mm,
Perhaps it might be a lighter way of approaching
right.
the herb. Not quite sure because I do know with most tinctures that brandy is often used as as a
Mm,
base. So there's alcohol there too.
right.
So it depends on the person, right? If you're sensitive to alcohol, it might not be.
Right.
You might lose a bit of the plant
Hmm.
essence or the plant consciousness with the alcohol being present. Because I know some
Right.
people they feel kind of out of it even with just little
Sure.
drops of alcohol.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. So in the African dream root, how would you say it does? It's very big in ancestor work. Have you worked with it much, or?
You know, I've done it twice and it
Mm,
gave me a stomach.
uh, interesting.
I figured, I would like to approach it from a different point of view,
Right.
maybe with a fast beforehand. So I think
Yeah.
certain plants and herbs too, and a lot of them are understudied, so you don't know how to prepare for some of them.
Hmm.
I think a really good go-to baseline way of approaching working with a new plant is doing a cleanse first,
Right.
allowing yourself a little bit of a detox. It can be a water fast.
Hmm.
It could also just be like just really simplifying your diet. So cutting out all meat, cutting out all
Hmm.
dairy,
Right.
just have whole foods, simple, cutting out sugar and salt,
Yeah.
and get going into the process of working from the plant with just a kind of cleansed reset.
Hmm.
So I might try African dream root again, just from that perspective, instead of
Hmm.
even other plants like coffee can interrupt the
Right.
process. So I would say even cut out the
Mm,
coffee. So I
mm,
know with a lot of plant medicines, this is the approach, or dietas as well, is to approach working with the plant with a clean slate so that you can
hmm.
fully engage with the plant consciousness.
Interesting. Now you've also have passion flower in your book as well, which is a very useful herb. Beautiful for
Yeah, so it's the
great,
crushed leaves of the passion
nice.
flower.
And
Yeah, I love that one.
you do it as a
It's a
tea.
beautiful one. Yeah, so using it
Mm,
as a tea. And this
mm,
is really great too for those who feel like they're anxious,
mm,
insomnia, anxious dreamers. And this has a long history in South America as being a
mm.
medicinal herb as
Right.
well,
Hmm.
and also connecting to dreams.
Right.
So this is a really nice starter. I always recommend this is a really good go-to to start with
Mm,
winter dreams, and also and mugwort. These are two really good starting kind of
hmm.
herbs. But this is great if you even if you have anxiety, if you feel like an anxious person,
Right.
a cup passion flower is really beneficial, and studies do show that it does
Hmm.
have calming and soothing effects for
Yeah.
anxiety.
It's supposed to also be good for circular thinking too. When you just lay in bed
Yeah,
and you can't stop thinking, and yeah. Wow.
absolutely.
That's fascinating. Any other? So actually, we have a question. Let me. Actually, my brother Don, who's a mystic, he says, "Have you worked with psilocybin mushrooms and lucid dreaming?"
Yes, so I have some behind me. Some little
That's
ones.
right.
Yeah, they're great. Psilocybin is amazing. I mean, it's not amazing just for your waking dreams because it certainly can bring that, but I eat small doses like its dreamy effects. The plant itself is so elfin and so playful. It it just that's what dreams are about. Dreams hold a very similar energy as psilocybin in a way, where there's this playfulness, there's a surrealness to it. But yes, I think especially in in micro doses, as like a mushroom tea, can be
Mm,
uh, really good. I mean, it's because it's just a microdose, so it's just activating enough,
mm,
and you're not fully on a proper, trip. but
Right.
you're just opened up a little bit. So yes, I find in small doses it's quite good.
And of course, and you're just saying maybe take it as a tea as opposed to, yeah,
Yeah.
because now say something like ayahuasca, which is a very profound, powerful trip. Do you consider that, well, those two herbs as dream herbs, or what do you? I know they're hallucinogens as well as
Yeah.
entheogens. Mhm.
Ayahuasca, yeah, it's a
Visionary,
visionary
right?
plant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting about the psychedelic experience because it is very much like the same language as dreams. And in a
Mm-hmm.
way, dreams are like psychedelic experiences that you have every single night.
Mm-hmm.
So the experience of a full blown ayahuasca journey,
Mm-hmm.
the imagery and the symbols and everything that's coming through is the same language as the dream language. So there is a correlation. Now, what I've found when I've had ayahuasca journeys, my lucid dreaming is off the charts about 6 months after the ayahuasca
Hmm.
ceremony. So there's something that keeps you within this energy, this zone, this state of mind that carries on even after the initial experience with the plant. So it's something I really want to study. I'm currently studying at the Olive Trust with psychedelics, altered
Oh,
states, and
wow.
personal psychology. So
Mm-hmm.
this is part of my area of study,
Sure.
looking at some of these entheogens and psychedelics and how they affect things like lucid dreaming, further down the line. But there's something about ayahuasca that does seem to open up both lucid dreaming, out of body states, even precognition, and in my experience, mediumship as well, being
Wow.
able to have much easier access. So after the initial experience with the plant, you're changed afterwards. It's almost as though, okay, you can now hear into the zones, you can now feel into the zones.
Hmm.
And certainly that seems to be an activator. Now, also with ayahuasca, it's mixed in with a lot of other plant teachers too. One of them being Bobinsana, which I have here.
Hmm.
So Bobinsana is
Mm-hmm.
a wonderful plant teacher.
Mm-hmm.
It's on its own, it's not psychoactive,
Mm-hmm.
but it is very much a Oneirogen. It activates dreams.
Hmm.
And a lot of ayahuasqueros combined Bobinsana with to make ayahuasca.
Right.
So it's part of the experience too. But on its own, and working with this plant, lucid dreams are phenomenal with this plant.
Hmm.
I've had the most profound, even just sleep. I know this sounds mad, but even just having it next to me on the side of the bed, just being around it, has
Wow.
seemed to activate these really incredible lucid dreams. I was working with it last month, 5 nights in a row. I've never had this before. Lucid dreaming 5 nights in a row, back to
Hmm.
back. It was like a totally prolific. And it has the ability to open your heart, heal your heart from grief.
Hmm.
I always recommend this plant for those who are moving through bereavement and grief, or you need more self-compassion, you need more connection to your heart space. And in fact, the 5 lucid dreams that I had back to back when I was working with this wonderful plant were all about heart space. Every single dream was about my heart just being like blown open and just healed. And there was something, different things were happening within the lucid dreams that were just healing me. And I was giving myself self-compassion and love. Uh, this is an amazing plant. I highly recommend it. I've
Wow.
also got the tree growing in
Oh, beautiful.
behind me as well. They make these beautiful powder puff pink
Hmm.
flowers.
Yeah. In fact, I
And
think they just let me pull that up again. Like, is that it right there?
yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's it.
Bobasana. Beautiful. Is it readily available in the market to purchase?
It's one of those difficult ones to get a hold of, but you know what? If you search, you just keep the search going.
Yeah.
You can find it on eBay and Etsy. There could be some
eBay and
suppliers.
Etsy, right? Mm-hmm.
I think there's actually, I have Actually, I do have a name of a supplier.
Hmm.
Because I got a grower. I got
Mm-hmm.
a whole bunch from a grower, but then I found a place that's doing powder, like it ground up, and
Mm-hmm.
it's called Scripts of Nature. And so they were the only company that I could find that actually officially was selling it, because everybody else I've been getting it from have just been growers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, Scripts of Nature. You could get a book
Still scripts of. Let me see that. Scripts of. Let's
of
see.
nature. Oh, here we
can't see.
go. It's British.co.uk.
Oh. Let me see that again. I'll put it in the chat. Scripts of nature.
Yeah, Scripts of Nature.
Yeah.
You know what, Scott? You know what's so cool about Bobasana?
Uh-huh.
I had a dream about the plant before I found out about the plant.
Oh,
Now,
really?
I get this quite a bit, where I will dream about certain plants and then find out about them upon awakening. So this one specific dream I had, it wasn't a lucid dream, but it felt like one of those important dreams, because I usually know what they feel like, and also I'm kind of above, like kind of floating in a vantage point. So in this particular dream, I was floating above the earth, and I was looking down, and I was seeing North America, Central America, and South America. And as I was floating above, I saw all of these pink flowers popping up down in the South American part of the continent. And then I just had this, like, it's never a voice, it's just a knowing. It's like, I guess some people call it a download. And it said, "This is your next plant."
Wow.
So I woke up and I was like, so I was just Googling. I was like, flowers, South America, and I was trying to find this plant, and I couldn't find any pictures that looked like the plant that I was looking for. And the thing is, Bobansana is not a flower; it's a tree that flowers. So that's why I couldn't find the image of the flower. And then, no joke, a week later, a friend of mine who I hadn't heard from in a long time, he knows I work with plants, and he was having health issues, and he said, "Hey, I'm looking into different plants to help with my health issues, da da da." And he said, "Have you heard of this plant called Calandria augustifolia?" And I was like, "No, let me just Google it." So I Googled it. That's the Latin word, Calandria augustifolia. And this pink powder puff picture came up, and I was like, "That's the plant for my dreams." So then I found out the word Bopansana, which has been used by shamans for this plant, and then I've never looked back. I basically purchased it, got it, started working with it, getting to know it, dreaming with it, and so sometimes I get that, where I'll dream of the plant before it comes into my life, and then I know that that's the next plant to work with.
That's amazing. Wow. So what are the plants do you suggest working with? We've covered.
We covered quite a bit, hey?
Quite a bit, yeah.
Oh, Sinakowichi.
Ah, that's right. Let me see if I can find that. It's.
I've got one growing in my back behind me. I'll just grab it. Sinakowichi is also Mexican.
Okay, beautiful.
And it was used by the Aztecs. And Sinakowichi this is it growing, and you can also get it, you can also buy it, everybody.
Right.
So I've got it. Sinakowichi is a psychoactive plant. So this will alter your state of reality when you're awake. The interesting thing that you experience with Sinakowichi, it is a Oneirogen, so it does stimulate the dream realms, but it will stimulate your waking realms too.
Interesting.
So things that you could experience are audio hallucinations, like hearing You could hear things from very far distances as well, and they
Hmm.
just feel like they're right next to you.
Right.
Everything is everything seems to emit yellow energy.
Hmm.
So you see yellow energy or yellow auras around people, around
Hmm.
objects. And it's called, its Latin word is Hamaya salicifolia, and
Hmm.
it's also known as the sun opener plant,
That's right.
or the elixir of the sun.
Hmm.
So when you see this yellow aura around everything, you realize, okay, you can see why they called it the elixir of the sun. Now, this plant, it blossoms yellow flowers,
Hmm.
and they're not blossomed yet, but you know what? Every year it blossoms right on the solstice. It's
Wow.
really amazing. When it first
Hmm.
blossomed on solstice,
Hmm.
I literally burst out crying. It was the most beautiful thing. It was like the longest day,
Wow.
summer solstice, and
Sure.
here this little plant was just
It's
like
amazing.
popping these beautiful yellow flowers, just going, I worship the sun. I'm here. I'm
Wow.
alive. I'm connected. It's like
That's beautiful. Hmm.
sun, you commune with its also its ability to activate deep memory as well. So anyone interested in retrieving deep memories from either childhood, and I'd say maybe even try past lives, who knows, again, very understudied, so no one's really studying these plants. So of
Right.
course, I'm only giving you the information from experience and from other, people, through history, the little that we have about this plant.
Wow.
But they all have their own personalities.
Hmm.
And so when
Sure.
you commune with them, you get a
Hmm.
sense of their spirit or their consciousness.
Beautiful. And you take that as a tea as well, the best way?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's
Mm.
got a little bit of a ritualistic process in how you work
Mm.
with Sinakuichi. You masticate the leaves
Hmm.
into water
Hmm.
and to soak up the sun. So some people like to leave it out in the sun for a whole day just to ferment it,
Mm.
just to give it some sun energy. So that's part of
Right.
the ritualistic process, and then drinking it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so that's
From
what
the
it is.
fresh leaf, right? Yeah.
You can do it with dry leaves too.
Oh, really?
So most
Okay.
of the ones online
Mm.
that you get with Sinakuichi, you're gonna find it's gonna be dried leaves.
Dried leaves, right? And then just
There's a
leave it
lot of
out.
twigs in here, but I've
Do you have
pulled
to
out.
leave it out, or because it does ferment? Then it would have a little bit
It
of,
does ferment. I mean, I
yeah.
think uh, that's traditionally how it's done.
Traditionally, okay. Hmm.
So I mean,
Yeah.
that's one way of doing it, but maybe even perhaps just making it into a hot tea could have its effects. I've never done that. I've done it just the traditional way.
Fascinating. Well, we have a question from Justin Mapp. Um, he said, I have a question about how would one progress toward lucid dreaming. I currently keep a dream journal, and I've spent a lot of time adjusting my lifestyle to minimize excess stimulation through the technologies and food mainly. Any thoughts on things to try and develop into a practice? I would say, first of all, you definitely want to take a course with Tree. I think one of her classes, but
I've
yeah,
got one
but
coming up next,
that's
starts next
right.
week, or it starts on the 28th.
Yeah, but yeah, but any suggestions for the program on that, on how to
Yeah,
try to develop into a practice?
absolutely. Well, it sounds like you've got a lot of the good foundations there with the dream journaling, cleaning up sleep hygiene, even whatever you're not, substances, how resetting the body. So that's a really nice groundwork. So one way to take it up a notch, I'm sure you probably know of reality checks. Reality checks being questioning your state of reality several times during the day. I mean, many lucid dreamers do this with their hands, and they're, really studying your hands, being with them, uh, asking yourself the questions: am I dreaming? Am I awake? Am I dreaming? The more times you do that, the more chances that you would have finding your hands within a dream and going lucid. But I'd like to take things a little bit step further and allow yourself to be in a state of almost like a waking state of dreaming throughout the day. And basically, the more you are conscious, aware, and present in your waking times, the more conscious and aware and present you're going to be in your dream times too. So just finding time in your day to just let everything stop so you can just check in, just, observe, look, go, I'm alive, I'm awake, I'm experiencing something. Play with your consciousness and your perception of consciousness. And one thing I do on the course, and I get all the students to do, is to engage in what I call mirror checking. And this is being with your own reflection in the mirror many times during the day, allowing yourself to look into your own eyes, studying your own face, looking at the lines, but not just looking and thinking, looking and being. So all of your senses are pulled into the present moment, your sense of sight, sound, everything just really there with your own face. And it can be kind of disassociative sometimes. It's a bit like, not as crazy as looking at yourself in the mirror on acid or psilocybin, but it can have that disassociation feeling of like, oh my God, look at me, I'm just this strange little like fleshy creature thing. And that's when you're getting somewhere, when you can really find yourself into the zone of pure awareness, and playing with that duality of awareness too. And the more you do things like that, the more you build that consciousness muscle, the more this consciousness will be peaked in dreams. So I think it's almost like a way of living. It's like lucid living. It's really a way of living.
Great. Beautiful. And so this is the course, and it begins actually on March 28th, Sunday. Great.
Yeah.
Coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, a week tomorrow.
Excellent.
And it's a sleepover too.
Yeah, it's the same course. It's a great course. Yeah. I love to take it again myself. So, yeah, let me see if there's any other questions. But I mean, we also want to talk about your new book. You also have a book. Do you have any more questions? No. Yeah, your new book coming out. When that's it's already been finished, right? So let's see.
Yeah, it's right here.
Beautiful.
It's very colorful.
It's a great cover. Let me see. I don't.
I'm a dreamer.
Is it on your website yet, or?
Yeah, it should be on my website. It's out in May 17th, and it can be pre-ordered now. And this is slightly different from my first book. I wanted to do a 30-day interactive journal. So for 30 days, I guide the dreamer through various practices and ways of connecting to your dreams. So each day has like different activities to engage in. So there's different activities. And the cool thing about this book, I think, is that it starts off where you start with an intention. So you have an intention, and over the 30 days, you use your dreams and you bring your dreams back, you bridge them back into your waking reality, and you start working with them. You work with them. So if you have an intention, like say you're an artist, and you have an intention of creating a body of work, well, the book will guide you through the 30 days of capturing your dreams and turning them into something. So if you're an artist, you might turn your 30 days worth of dreams into a series of paintings. So that's just one intention. But you could be someone who just wants to experience your consciousness or to explore your inner psyche, and that could be your intention. So over the 30 days, by the end, you'll have a body of work that helps you have connected to that. So the dream, or the book itself, is just full of, every day there's like a different task, different exercises. I made it really fun, like it's really creative. And I wanted to make it so that kids will be into it too. So it's fun for adults, but it's also fun for like an 11-year-old. Because I know like a lot of kids are just growing up with gaming and gamers, and virtual reality, which is all really exciting, but it's like you can do all of this stuff in your own consciousness, and hopefully that will reconnect a bunch of, Generation Z and Generation Alpha into connecting with their dreams because, hey, it's you, it's your dreams, it's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, I look forward to getting the book. Yeah, I look forward to, and when is the release date?
May 17th.
May
Over.
17th. Great. In fact, so we have another question from Don. Let's see, one second. Let me get it back. Here we go. His question is, has spirit possession ever been an issue in your lucid dreaming journey?
Spirit possession. So, not so much in lucid dreaming, but more in out of body states, like the astral projection. And also, yeah, that liminal threshold of astral projection sleep paralysis, where it felt as though, like, the astral plane feels like that there more of that kind of thing seems to happen. Sometimes it feels as though you come across seemingly intelligent and free-willed entities
Hmm.
that are sometimes are benevolent and some are neutral, some are menacing, and sometimes it feels like as though some of them are hungry ghosts in a way that you know
Hmm.
uh, try to latch on, try to you know uh, be involved in ways, and they can be also like sexually involved as well. And I know a lot of people talk about this, and it seems very taboo, but sex goes on in these types of
Hmm.
places. Astral sex, or you know, uh, these kind of experiences. And I know a lot of people have had these experiences, but they don't really talk about them because they seem taboo, and also seems like you're off your rocker if you talk about stuff like that. But again, these are experiences that are within the scope of being a human being, and they're out there. So however you want to take it, you can take it. But yeah, I've heard of a lot of experience. I've had experiences not being possessed, but being almost like felt like I was being overtaken in ways by shadow entities in the astral plane. I've been able to dispel them and be able to have them dissipate or go on their way. Uh, but yeah, I've experienced them. I've experienced them speaking in other languages.
Hmm.
I've experienced their energy. I've experienced their fear. But I find in moving in those realms and coming up against these kind of situations or experiences is to hold yourself in a place of equanimity. If you feed into the fear, it will just feed them. If you are able to hold your own source energy in your own space and blast it out with calm, peace, love, it seems to change it. It seems to make it stop. Uh, but yeah, it's really fascinating topic because I've talked to lots of various friends and clients and colleagues who've had their experience or their brush with either near possession, or it felt like they were possessed for a second and then not anymore.
Hmm.
They felt that they came up against some kind of demon or an entity that was unsavory. But having said all of these experiences seem to hold a lesson of sorts. And I like to see these experiences as almost a form of rite of passage or test or initiation, because I do believe that what is there, the scary material, there's something beyond it. So what do we need? We need to move beyond it in some kind of way. So I always find that it's initiatory. So if it's happening, don't worry. Perhaps there's something beyond the fear for you to move into.
Well, thank you. That was an interesting question, interesting answer. That was great. Well, Tree, unfortunately, we're out of time now, but it's been really wonderful to speak to you. And I'm going to put your book up there, the new book. This is it right here. And your website I put in the chat. It's is the new book. We look forward to that on Amazon, Conscious Dreamer. And your website is luciddreamtree.com. That's right there.
Yeah.
So, and you have courses. Yeah. So, let me, 1 second. Yeah. So it's a pleasure speaking with you. And
Thank you so much, Scott. Wonderful to connect and chat.
okay. And thank you everyone for coming. Okay.